Hello there and welcome to my channel. Tonight I am going to be making a breastfeeding cover. Now I have a baby, but it is not my first baby, it is my third baby. And so I have more or less abandoned all modesty when it comes to breastfeeding in public. I live in Europe. It is socially acceptable to breastfeed openly, and so I just more or less go for it whenever my baby gets hungry, and am not currently in possession of any sort of breastfeeding cover. Now, you might ask, well then why start? I'm going to Tokyo next week with my husband and have done a lot of reading on the subject and have come to find out that Japanese culture does not view breastfeeding in public the same way that European culture does, and that there is a higher expectation of modesty for mothers breastfeeding their children in public. And so, in order to be respectful of the culture that we'll be visiting, I want to come prepared with a breastfeeding cover. So, I'm going to make one out of this fabric from my stash, which is a beautiful lightweight silk. Now, I'm hoping because of its lightness and transparency and the fact that it's made out of a natural fiber, that it will be comfortable, or as comfortable as possible, for the babes while it's draped over him. In terms of design, I'm thinking very simply of a square with a hole or a slit cut in the middle of it, in order to put it over my head, and then have the rest of the scarf or the cover up kind of draping down, and then covering what's going on underneath it, and so the baby would be nestled up underneath it. I've chosen this very simple pattern or design because this is my first time working with silk, and I'm a little bit scared about my ability to work with it. So I'm going to cut it out now, and then I'm going to do some testing on my machine with different thread, tension, stitch length, etc. But hopefully we will manage. But let's get into it.
The funny thing about this scarf is I think I spent 3 full evenings working on it, which was at least 3 times as much time as I thought it would take. And I actually didn't use it once when we were in Japan. Stay tuned to the end of the video if you're curious why that is. So after I got the fabric all laid out, at the last minute when I was about to cut it, I realized that being a woven fabric, I could probably rip it. And let me just say that there is nothing more satisfying than ripping fabric. I don't know if it's the feeling of the threads pulling apart, or the sound, or the combination of the two, but I love it. I'm at home by myself with the baby a lot these days, so I celebrate the small pleasures in life.
So the weirdest thing happened when I tried to sew this with the original bobbin thread, which is the black thread. It kept doing these weird skip stitches on the bottom, and at like regular intervals. So it made me think that it was something to do with the machine. But then I just tried to see a different bobbin thread in a different color. And I know you can't see any of this on camera, but it worked perfectly. So I think it's just the thread that was wrong, which is interesting because I didn't realize that a thread could have that big of an impact on the stitches and the stitch quality. Let me know if I'm a fool for not knowing that. But yeah, it looks way better now. And I think I've got the tension okay. I have to admit, getting the tension right is still a mystery to me. Like, if I look at this piece, it looks the best to me here, and it gets a little wobbly over here. But this is the side with the lower tension. So I would have thought the side with the higher tension would do the waviness, not the lower side. I don't know. I'm questioning everything that I think that I know about sewing. But anyway, I think I found a bobbin thread that works. It is not black, it is like a dark gray, but I'm thinking that no one can tell anyway. So I'm just gonna go ahead. The top thread might actually not even be black, it might be dark blue. It's 10 o'clock at night, I can't really tell. So we're gonna sew a black and white scarf with blue and gray thread and hope for the best. Should be great.
As I mentioned, this was the first time I was working with silk, and I found the sewing a little bit more easy than I expected, in that once I got the fabric going through the machine, I felt like it sewed pretty straight. It wasn't too slippery. But what I underestimated in terms of difficulty was ironing or pressing. So I had the hardest time pressing this fabric, could not get it to do what I wanted. I was afraid to use too much steam and too much heat. On reflection, I think I could have used more, but even so, it just felt like this chiffon didn't want to stay anywhere that I placed it.
Quick update. As I was sewing the first edge, it occurred to me that maybe my machine is not performing well on this fabric because I did not change the needle. And to be honest, I don't remember the last time I did change the needle. So even if that were the right size needle for this fabric, for sure it is not fresh enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the needle, and hopefully that's going to make this a little bit smoother, because even though changing the bobbin thread has worked a lot better, the machine still sounds like it's catching a little bit, and I'm really hoping it's not my machine. Like, I haven't had this so long, a couple of years, and it's worked really well up until now. And I think maybe it is just in need of a fresh needle. So I'm gonna give her that, and then we'll do the other side and see if that helps. Okay, it is the next day, and I have had the good sense this morning to change the bobbin thread to black. And so we have the same color thread on the top and the bottom, and both of them are black, not blue, not gray. So, all right, we're doing better than last night. But my rolled hem foot did not execute a perfect hem on the edge of this scarf. So there are a few places where the edge of the fabric didn't quite roll completely under and is showing a little bit. And so I feel like this is unacceptable to bring to a place like Japan, which is known for its high quality and attention to detail. So what I would like to do is actually create, I think, what is called a baby hem, and fold this hem over once, iron it down, and then sew on top of it again. So kind of create a double rolled hem. And so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to press all of the sides in, and then sew it down one more time. So I've cleaned up the hem on the four sides a bit and cut away the little pieces that were sticking out. I still think that I want to fold the hem over one more time and sew it all around the four sides, just to encapsulate any edges that I missed in the rolled hem. But before I go through with all of that extra work, I wanted to do the slit in the middle, because this is the piece that I'm not too sure about, and there's no sense in giving it a perfect hem if I can't get the slit right. So initially, I cut out this piece as the piece of fabric that will reinforce the slit. So the idea is I will lay this down on top of the square in the middle, sew a long skinny rectangle down it, and then cut open the rectangle and push this on the other side, and then finish it by folding the hem, or folding the sides over and stitching around this full rectangle. I measured this based on half of my head measurement, right? So I was like, as long as this is long enough to go around half of my head, then when it's open, my whole head will fit through it. That is not at all how physics works.
So that's actually not true. First of all, it's not physics, it's geometry. And in geometry, if you cut a slit and you open it up, then the diameter of the opening is twice as long as the slit because it has two sides to it. I don't want to get overly technical, but this version of me, although she seems so confident that she has this right, does not have this right. And if I had any brain power left at this moment, I would have realized that. But unfortunately, I did not. And so if you want to see the horror on my face when I realized this way too late, please keep watching.
And so thankfully, I had the good sense to think about this a little bit harder. And if I just cut a hole in this piece of fabric, which let's say is like 30 centimeters, then only an object that has a diameter or a circumference of 30 centimeters can fit through it. And my head is much bigger than that. So I have cut out another strip, which is much longer, and I'm pretty sure now I have the right length. And so I'm going to give this a try. I really hope it works. I'm not going to interface it because I don't want it to be stiff around the neck. I hope I don't live to regret that decision. But anyway, let's get into it. Okay, so I finished sewing this patch on. You can see I did 2 lines of stitching here, and now what I'm going to do is just cut in between those 2 lines of stitching and then take this piece and push it through the hole, and then once it's on the other side, I'll kind of top stitch it down around this rectangular bit, and that should give me a semi-reinforced slit through which to put my head. So hopefully I did it right. Hopefully it's the right size. Yeah. All right, let's do it. I'm a little nervous because this is the you can't come back from it moment. Once you cut into the middle of a scarf, there's no turning back. But okay, here we go. Whenever I get stuck agonizing over which design feature for something to choose, you know, whether to do top stitching or don't do top stitching, especially when it's something kind of insignificant like that, I have started telling myself that it's just research. So do it one way, pick the way that you think it's gonna look the best, of course. But if it doesn't work out, then that's just a little bit of information that you have uncovered, and you can just consider this done in the name of research. So you don't have to freak out anytime you've made a choice that you end up kind of regretting. I think that saves me some pain in making decisions, or anxiety at least. Because ultimately, what I am trying to do is improve my sewing skills, and my skills are improved with every project, whether it turns out the way I wanted it to or not, because there's always something in it to learn. And in fact, as we all know, you learn, and certainly in the case for me, more when you make mistakes. So shouldn't be so afraid of making them because they're the best little knowledge nuggets. Oh, this is going to take a while. When I was sewing this, I was feeling all proud of myself, like, sewing silk isn't so bad. I don't know what everyone's fussing about. Now I know what everyone was fussing about. This is very difficult. It doesn't want to stay. Where are you going? But that's pretty common for me these days. Anytime I feel confident about something in sewing, it's because I have misunderstood or am about to find out that how wrong I am. So I find sewing such a humbling experience, and it's kind of fun to be such a newbie at something when in your normal life, in your professional career, you're supposed to be an expert. I am not an expert at this, but I like it. So sewing is both what I do for fun and the thing that probably frustrates and annoys me the most. And I have 3 kids and a husband, so that's saying something. I think I better go to sleep. It's 11:15 and this is looking pretty good. So I just need to stitch, oh, you can see, stitch around the opening and then about 1 centimeter away from the opening to stitch down the extra reinforcing rectangle. But I feel myself getting a little careless in my pressing, and I just don't have any patience, and I'm doing the internal like, screw it, who cares? You won't be able to see it. And I do actually want this to look good, so I'm gonna stop here. Now I'm looking at this hole right now, and I think it's too big. Oh my gosh, let's see. It's too big. I was right before. I was right the first time. I only needed half my head length. Oh no. Oh. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just cut this whole thing and like pressed the whole thing without realizing how enormous this hole is. Oh, I feel so stupid. All right, I'll have to figure out how to fix this tomorrow. Bye. So it's the next day, and I have had some time to think about the fact that I cut out a neck hole that is big enough to put on like a friggin' Saint Bernard, and I think I have a solution. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to finish the hole as planned. So by sewing a line of stitching here just around the edge of the hole, and then another one about 1 centimeter away around the greater triangle to keep it down. And then once I have that all kind of sewn into place, I will tack down in 2 spots right about here. So the hole goes all the way out to this length, and so I'll come in like 10 centimeters on either side and tack it in place here. This will make the neck hole smaller, and so it'll stay kind of on my neck, and we'll create these kind of open slits on my shoulder, which we can just say was like an intended design feature. No one has to know that we completely miscalculated how big the hole would need to be. The funny thing is about that is like I was so confident when I was making the design change decision last night that my original calculation was just so off and just laughably ridiculous. And I was like, I know so much better. And then I come up with this, which is like big enough. I mean, it's big enough to go around my hips, like bigger than needed for my hips. Like, what was I thinking? So I am contemplating putting a moratorium on critical design decisions being taken after a certain time at night, let's say maybe 10 p.m. But it is currently 10:30, so I need to carry on with this, and having come up with the idea earlier today, I think we're in the clear. So let's see if I can get this finished now.
So as I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't actually end up using this scarf while in Japan. Everywhere you go, they have these things called baby rooms. And a baby room is kind of like a public bathroom, but for taking care of babies. And they're found most places where there are public restrooms. And a baby room has everything that you need to take care of a baby. It's got a changing mat, it has a diaper trash, it has a private area for nursing. It has warm water for making bottles. And so it is a perfect area for you to take a break and feed your baby in privacy. And these baby rooms are almost everywhere. I'll show you a picture here of one that I just absolutely had to film because it was over the top. And as you can see, when I arrived in this one, there's nobody else there. I think while I was nursing my son, someone else came in and changed their baby, but I don't think I ever heard another mother nursing in one of the nursing areas next to me. I don't know if statistically that means anything, but I just was surprised by the dearth of babies.
You can see that despite being a very thin chiffon, it is still pretty opaque and provides a good amount of coverage. You can't really see my hands through there, so I feel pretty covered up when using it in public, but because it is so thin and made of silk, I feel like it's pretty breathable for the babes when he's nestled up underneath it. And because it is so thin, it folds up very small. So you can put it in your bag or your purse and it takes up almost no space at all. I mean, look, if you roll it up like this, it's this big, tiny, and even could fold in smaller. And when you're not using it, or when I'm not using it, I like to fold it in half and wear it as a scarf. Oops, I'm doing this in a silly way. Looks great as a scarf. You can wear it like this. You can wear it like and because the slit is in the middle, it's usually kind of in this folded up area, and so you can't even tell. And it just looks elegant and beautiful. It's 100% silk and doubles as a nursing cover-up. Win-win. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next video.